The general tenor of these notes was to tease and provoke the police.
Number 10. Bathroom hair. The hair in question here actually wasn't from the criminal associated with the case, Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber.
For nearly 2 decades, a mathematical genius with delusions of single-handedly destroying industrial society planted or mailed powerful bombs to unsuspecting, innocent victims.
Here, Kaczynski actually planted someone else's hair that he found in a bus station bathroom into an explosive package in order to throw authorities off the scent of the case.
We knew we were dealing with a disgruntled genius. We just didn't know how smart or how angry he truly was, or how far he'd go.
Although the hair didn't belong to the Unabomber, utilizing someone else's locks in this way is not only gross, but creepy as well. Never mind the possibility of the feds knocking at your door thinking that you're somehow involved with such a dangerous madman.
He was given 4 life sentences plus 30 years. He would never be eligible for parole.
Number 9. Message machete. There was no questioning the intentions of one Prince Hepburn after the forensic report of this crime scene came back from the lab.
After just over an hour of deliberations, a jury has determined that Prince Hepburn is guilty of killing his girlfriend Nellie Brown Cox 2 years ago.
This is because Hepburn actually left behind the murder weapon with a very specific pair of messages written about both the actual and intended victims. A bloody machete was found at the scene where Hepburn murdered his girlfriend with the phrase, "This is what cheaters get," scrawled on the blade. On the other side was a message for the other potential victim. It's the level of morbidity that only tends to be seen in horror movies, but in this case, the horror was very, very real.
When the verdict was handed down, Hepburn appeared calm, the same way he had appeared throughout the trial.
Number 8. Tarot cards. The Beltway snipers terrorized the Washington, D.C. area back in 2002, utilizing long-distance rifles to maximize the cold and detached distances between them and their victims.
Go. Go.
John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo utilized different calling cards over the course of their terror spree. But one particularly chilling moment occurred after the October 7th shooting of Iron Brown. Malvo and Muhammad left the death tarot card at the crime scene, inscribed with the words, "Do not release to the press. For you, Mr. Police, and call me God."
Leads that once didn't mean anything started to bring the case together.
It was creepy and deeply disturbing, to say the least.
I mean, I was a monster. If you look up the definition, I mean, that's what a monster is. I was a ghoul. I was a thief. I stole people's lives.
Number 7. A deadly plea.
The random savagery of the lipstick killer didn't jibe with a city known for its strong, safe neighborhoods.
The legal case of the lipstick killer, William Herons, was a mess, featuring inconsistent prosecution, shoddy police work, and illegalities behind the scenes.
It was then, with his own lawyers encouraging him, that he stopped fighting and decided to take the rap for 3 murders he did not commit.
There are some who feel that Herons wasn't even the notorious serial killer who left a creepy moniker-defining message at the scene of a crime. It was scrawled on a victim's apartment wall, and it said, quote, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." Herons was ultimately sentenced to life in prison for 3 separate murders, although he died in prison maintaining that his confession was coerced.
He insisted he had confessed solely to save himself from the electric chair, not because he was guilty.
Number 6. Legos. The murder of Lucille Johnson in 1991 was notable right off the bat for the bevy of Lego bricks scattered at the scene of the crime.
Investigators say it took them 23 years to catch a break in this cold case. The game-changing clues, new DNA evidence, and Lego toys that were found at the crime scene.
Moreover, DNA results conducted many years later led authorities to believe that Johnson's murderer, John Sansing, had brought his son along with him that day.
Investigators say it was Sansing's son's fingerprints found on the Lego toys, placing the child at the murder scene.
That young child has been tormented with these visions all these years.
As a result, the mental image is that Sansing's son was innocently playing with the Legos while his father was off committing a truly heinous act.
Occasionally, we run into individuals who are evil. The individual that is being charged with this crime today can only be described as that.
Number 5. Dead driver's license. David Kalick was unapologetic after murdering his ex-girlfriend in 2014. So much so that he posted his grotesque handiwork to the internet.
He was drinking beer while police were hunting for him and talking about his dead girlfriend as if she was still alive.
It was known as the 4chan murder in the press, after Kalick uploaded photos of the crime and text apparently lamenting the fact that, quote, "It's way harder to strangle someone to death than it looks on the movies." Additionally, Kalick wrote messages around the house, including bad news on blinds in the home and "she killed me first" on a framed photo. Finally, Kalick scrawled out a blunt statement on his ex's driver's license, one that simply said, "dead."
And in his confession note, Kalick also said, quote, "Running from the cops was so much fun." Then he signed his initials DK.
Number 4, a promise to return. She may currently live under an alias, but the woman born Mary Bell possesses the gruesome distinction of being Britain's youngest female killer.
Oh, she was wicked. She was. I think there's no question about it.
Bell was only 10 when she strangled the first of her 2 victims back in 1968. By all accounts, Bell's home life was full of trauma and mistreatment at the hands of her mother, and she displayed troubling and dangerous behavior for some time before killing her first victim, Martin Brown.
She was deeply embedded in a sort of petty crime environment, an environment in which violence against each other was something that was almost acceptable and the norm.
Later, Bell and an accomplice would not only harass Brown's mother prior to her son's funeral, but they also left taunting notes to police at a nearby nursery they vandalized. One of the notes read, "I murder so that I may come back."
The general tenor of these notes was to tease and provoke the police because the police weren't making any progress.
Number 3, Grisly Devices. Dean Corll was a notorious serial killer known by a number of monikers, including the Pied Piper and the Candyman.
Dean Corll earned the nickname the Candyman because his younger days, his family owned a candy company, a small candy company located in the Heights. And he often gave candy away to kids in the neighborhood.
Corll's methodology was brutal, and he even had a pair of young accomplices that assisted in his luring, torturing, and murdering his victims. These victims would often be handcuffed to a plywood board and harmed by Corll prior to their deaths. And it was this torture board that was found at the scene when the Candyman met his demise at the hands of one of these aforementioned accomplices, Elmer Wayne Henley.
Elmer Wayne Henley's trial was a media circus. The only thing I can equate it to was his O.J. Simpson trial without the television in the courtroom.
Number 2, ciphers. A cipher is a coded message that's deliberately disguised in order to convey a hidden message. There have been a number of killers over the years that have communicated in ciphers, most notably the Zodiac.
It's okay. This is all gonna be okay.
The case of Ricky McCormick is another involving ciphers, and one that also remains unsolved. Here, the message was found on McCormick's body after his remains were found in a Missouri cornfield on June 30th, 1999.
Within Ricky's pockets were 2 pieces of paper, both filled with seemingly random letters and punctuation that local police had no chance of being able to decipher.
The FBI is still actively seeking public assistance in cracking the cipher at the time of this writing, since it's believed that the clue to the identity of McCormick's murderer lies within the code.
The head of the CRRU says, "We are really good at what we do, but we could use some help with this one. Breaking the code could reveal the victim's whereabouts before his death and could lead to the solution of a homicide."
Number 1, Ed Gein's house. You can take your pick from the contents of Ed Gein's house. It was a literal house of horrors.
He'd reverse the normal process of trash disposal, and instead of taking all his garbage to the dump, would go to the dump and bring it into his house.
The horror of Gein's crimes shocked the world and served as inspiration for numerous equally gruesome horror movie amalgamations of his life. Gein's house was full of furniture and other items that were crafted from human remains.
He knows how to slaughter animals, he knows how to prepare carcasses. He's from a community that's very much into its hunting and its fishing. So at some point, reality and fantasy are going to collide.
It's almost too much to take in. An absurdly horrific and unforgettable tableau of inhuman depravity from one of the most notorious cases of all time.
Ed Gein's farmhouse was the habitation of a literal ghoul. You know, somebody who had been living amidst these horrific relics of human dismemberment. It was a madhouse.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.